It was one of those perfect autumn afternoons, crisp air, leaves crunching underfoot, the kind of quiet day where nothing ever seems to go wrong. I was next door, helping my neighbor, Mr. Henderson, rake the endless sea of golden and red leaves covering his lawn. We were just chatting about the weather, the usual small talk, when I heard it, a faint, familiar tune drifting from my house. At first, I didn't think much of it. It was my mom's humming. She had this specific little off key melody she'd hum when she was content, usually while baking or gardening. It was a comforting sound, the soundtrack to my childhood. But then a cold realization washed over me. My parents weren't home. They had left that morning for a weekend trip to visit my aunt, a good 3 hours away. There was no one supposed to be in the house. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just the wind or my imagination playing tricks on me. But the sound grew louder, clearer. It wasn't coming from outside. It was definitely coming from inside my house. Specifically, from the upstairs bedroom, right above where I was standing in the yard. The humming was no longer comforting. It was eerie, misplaced. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. I dropped the rake, the clatter echoing in the sudden silence as the humming paused, as if it knew I was listening. "You all right there, kid?" Mr. Henderson asked, leaning on his rake. I just stared at my house, at the dark window of my parents' bedroom. I mumbled something about needing to grab my phone and quickly walked back toward my front door. My hand trembled as I fumbled with the keys. The lock clicked open, and I stepped into the silent hallway. The air inside felt heavy, stagnant. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and shaky. No answer. Just a deep, unnerving quiet. I pulled out my phone, my fingers flying as I dialed my dad. He answered on the second ring, his voice cheerful. "Hey, everything okay?" he asked. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Dad, there's someone in the house. I can hear them humming." "It sounds like Mom." The line went dead silent for a moment. All I could hear was the faint static of the connection. Then his voice came back, but it was completely different. It was tight, urgent, laced with fear I had never heard from him before. "Listen to me very carefully," he said, his words clipped and sharp. "Get out of the house, right now. Go next door and wait for us. Do not go back inside." No one should be there. His panic was contagious. I didn't ask questions. I slammed the door behind me and sprinted back to Mr. Henderson's yard, my lungs burning. As soon as I was on his lawn, I looked back at my house. The humming had started again, but this time it was louder, more distinct, as if the person was standing right at the window. And then, as quickly as it began, it stopped. The house just stood there, silent and imposing against the graying dusk. But I swear from the corner of my eye, I saw a flicker of movement in the upstairs window. A shadow, a shape, something watching me. My parents broke every speed limit to get home. They burst through the door, my dad first, his face a mask of grim determination. They searched every room, every closet, every dark corner. They found nothing. The house was empty, undisturbed. No signs of a break-in, nothing out of place. It was just an old, quiet house. My mom tried to reassure me, saying it was probably just old pipes or the wind playing tricks on the vents. But I saw the way my dad looked at her, the silent, worried exchange that passed between them. He knew I wasn't imagining it. He believed me. Even now, years later, the house is just a house. But sometimes when it's quiet, late at night, I think I can still hear it. A faint, ghostly melody echoing in the back of my mind. That tune, my mother's humming, has never been a comfort to me since. And I never ever look up at that upstairs window after dark. Some things are better left unseen, and some sounds are better left unheard. Thanks so much for listening to my story. It's one of those things that has stuck with me forever. If you have any similar experiences, I'd love to read them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more strange stories. Stay safe out there. It was a dark, rainy Tuesday night, the kind where the sound of the storm outside makes you feel cozy and safe inside. I was curled up on the sofa, half watching some random show, when my phone suddenly lit up the dim room. It buzzed against the cushion, a jarring sound in the quiet. I picked it up. An unknown number. Normally, I'd just ignore it, letting it go to voicemail. Who answers unknown numbers these days, right? But a strange gut feeling, made me swipe to answer. Hello? I said, a little annoyed. Silence. Then a faint, crackling sound, like a bad connection or a very old line. And through the static, a voice, a woman's voice, thin and trembling with age. It felt like it was coming from a great distance. Emma? She whispered. Yes? Who is this? I asked, sitting up straight. The rain hammered against the window pane. Emma, the voice repeated. A little stronger this time, but still frail. It's your great-grandmother. My blood ran cold. I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it had stopped beating entirely. This had to be a joke. A sick, twisted prank. My great-grandmother. She passed away when I was just a little girl. It had been years. I barely remembered her. Just faded photographs and family stories. That's not funny, I stammered, my voice shaking. Who is this, really? Listen to me, child, she insisted, her voice filled with an urgency that cut through the static in my disbelief. Listen closely. Tell Essie. Tell Essie it's time to come home. Essie? I was completely lost. Who's Essie? I don't know anyone named Essie. My mind was racing, trying to place the name. Was this a wrong number after all? But how do they know my name? Before I could ask another question, the line went dead. Just a dial tone. I stared at my phone, my hand trembling so hard, I almost dropped it. The screen was black. I quickly went to my call history to see the number, to try and figure out what had just happened. But there was nothing. The log was empty. The call from the unknown number, it wasn't there. It was as if it never happened. I was shaken, deeply unsettled. I tried to dismiss it as a dream, a figment of my imagination brought on by the gloomy weather. But the voice, it felt so real, so familiar, in a way I couldn't explain. I couldn't shake the name she'd said. Essie, I had to talk to someone. I called my mom. My voice was still unsteady as I explained the bizarre call. I told her about the woman claiming to be my great-grandmother and the strange message. When I got to the part about Essie, my mom went silent on the other end of the line. For a long, heavy moment, all I could hear was her breathing. Mom, are you there? Her voice, when she finally spoke, was thick with emotion. Emma, Essie, that was my mother's childhood nickname. It was what your great-grandmother always called her. My jaw dropped. My grandmother. The message was from my grandmother. My mom explained that only a few people in the family even knew that old nickname. It was something from a distant past, a special name between a mother and her daughter. My grandmother had been in the hospital for a few weeks. Her health was failing, and we all knew the end was near, but we weren't expecting it to be now. A few hours later, the phone rang again. This time, it was the hospital. My mom answered. I just watched her face crumble. My grandmother had passed away peacefully in her sleep. When my mom hung up, she looked at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of grief and awe. The nurse had told her the exact time of death. It was 9:15 p.m., the exact moment my phone had rung with that impossible call. The moment my great-grandmother had called to bring her daughter home. Ever since that night, my view of the world has changed. I can't explain what happened. The number that vanished, the voice from beyond the grave, the perfectly timed message. It defies logic. But in my heart, I know what I experienced was real. I believe that sometimes the ones we've lost reach back across the veil, just for a moment, to guide our loved ones home. Sometimes the dead call to say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's something I've held close for a long time. If you have similar experiences or just enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the edge of reality. I'll see you in the next one. Have you ever felt like you're being watched? I mean, really watched. Not just a passing glance on the street, but a persistent, unnerving gaze that prickles the back of your neck even when you're alone in your own home. For me, that feeling became a terrifying reality, and it all started with a simple online chat. I used to spend a lot of my evenings unwinding online, talking to strangers in different forums. It was a harmless escape, a way to connect with people I'd never meet in real life. One of these people went by the name Shadow Walker. Our conversations were always pretty standard: movies, music, the usual stuff. He seemed intelligent, a bit mysterious, but nothing that set off any major alarm bells. We chatted for weeks, and I started to see him as a regular online friend. But one night, everything changed. I was sitting at my desk, curled up in my favorite oversized hoodie, the one with the faded university logo on the front. I had my legs tucked underneath me, lost in our conversation. We were talking about a new sci-fi movie when he sent a message that made my blood run cold. "That hoodie looks comfortable," he wrote. "The blue one. And the way you're sitting with your feet tucked under you, ... You must be cold." I stared at the screen, my heart starting to pound against my ribs. It was a joke, right? A lucky guess? My profile pictures were old, and none of them showed this hoodie. I typed back, trying to keep my tone light. "That's a good guess. Are you a psychic or something?" My hands were shaking. How could he possibly know that? It was too specific. Too accurate. His reply came instantly. "I'm not guessing." The seconds stretched into an eternity. I waited, my breath caught in my throat. Then the next message appeared. "I'm watching you through your webcam." A wave of pure terror washed over me. My eyes darted to the top of my monitor, to the tiny, innocuous black dot of my webcam. The little green light next to it was on. It had been on for so long that I'd stopped even noticing it. Panic seized me. I slammed my laptop shut, but in my haste, I didn't close it all the way. Through the small gap, I could still see the green light, a malevolent, glowing eye in the darkness of my room. My mind was racing. How? How long had he been watching? With a trembling hand, I fumbled for a piece of tape on my desk and slapped it over the camera lens. My heart was a drum solo in the quiet room. I took a shaky breath, feeling a small, fragile sense of relief. It was covered. He couldn't see me anymore. But that relief was short-lived. Words began to type themselves across our chat window, appearing on my screen without me touching the keyboard. Letter by letter, a new message from Shadow Walker materialized. "I can still see you," I screamed. I scrambled away from the desk, knocking my chair over, and unplugged the computer from the wall. The screen went black, but the image of those words was burned into my mind. I called the police, my voice trembling so much I could barely get the words out. They came, they took my computer, and a few days later, the cybercrimes unit delivered the chilling news. My computer hadn't just been hacked, it had been compromised for weeks. Someone had been remotely accessing my webcam, my microphone, my files, my entire digital life, and, by extension, my real one. They were never able to trace Shadow Walker. He just vanished like a ghost in the machine. It's been 10 years since that night. 10 years, and the fear has never completely gone away. To this day, every single camera in my house, on my laptop, my phone, even my smart TV is covered with a piece of tape. You might think it's paranoia, but I know better. Sometimes when you're staring at a screen, you can't be sure who or what is staring back. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more content. Stay safe out there, and maybe, just maybe, check that little light on your webcam